Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast, and today we're going to be going over, recapping, and talking about the Orioles game that happened earlier today. And there's going to be a lot said about that game. The game is trending on the internet right now and earlier, and it probably will be trending throughout tomorrow as well because it was a complete disaster for the Orioles. And yeah, the Orioles lost in a pretty historic and embarrassing fashion today. And just a little disclaimer going into this video that there will not be a lot of positive things said about the Orioles in this video. This is one of those games where you can't really leave the game and expect for me to say anything good about the team. There'll be a little positives here and there. I mean, there's probably like one or two positives in the entire game. But just a fair warning that this Orioles game did get very ugly. And, there's a lot to discuss and go over. And I'll also be talking about kind of the state of the team and what's going on. Because when a game like today happens, you kind of got to regroup and think about, like, what is really going on within this team. So, yeah, my name is Ethan Stroud. This is episode 21 of Birds of a Feather. And let's just get right into it. Going over the Orioles game. The Orioles played this afternoon in Game 3 of their season series against Cincinnati. The Reds won the first game, the Orioles won the second game, and if the Orioles won today, they would have won their series, and also it would have been back-to-back series wins on the year, so you could have just taken that momentum and just ran with it, and things would have been pretty good. Obviously the Reds win the first game, Orioles win the second game. Today was the rubber match. We needed this game, obviously, for consistency, for overall series wins in a row. And the Orioles went out today and lost 24-2 to the Cincinnati Reds, and there really is just no words that I can use to describe what I watched. It was 100% one of the most ugly and embarrassing baseball games I've watched as a fan of the Orioles. Obviously, they went through a crazy rebuild. That we know it was there was a lot of bad things during that rebuild, but for a team that has such high expectations, for this to happen to them this early, and also for it to happen to them in the situation that they're kind of in, it's a little poetic. And this score of losing 24-2, and I'll say that again because this isn't a Ravens game. The Ravens didn't win or lose 24-2. This was the Baltimore Orioles baseball team that lost 24-2. So, there's a lot to go over in this game, a lot of negative. And, let's just start off with the offense. So, the offense put up a total of 7 hits on the day, scored 2 runs. Cedric Mullins went 1 for 5. He's been doing his thing. Obviously, Cedric has been one of the best players on this team on offense. But obviously, there's nothing that he could have done today to save this absolute murder and massacre of a game that the Orioles were a part of. But Cedric Mullins went 1 for 5. Gunnar Henderson 0 for 4. Adley Rutschman 2 for 4 with the solo home run. That is probably the only. Actually, no. There's 2 positives to say. That's one of the 2 positives in this game was an Adley Rutschman solo home run. It's nice to see him get back on track, and he also had a 2-hit game, which is nice to see. Ryan O'Hearn went 0 for 4. Ryan Mountcastle went 1 for 4. Jordan Westberg is the other positive of today. He went 2 for 4. His average is back up to 194, so he's starting to get a little bit of a rhythm. Obviously, yesterday he hit the home run, and he kind of carried the momentum today and had a multi-hit game. So good for Jordan. Obviously, we're going to need him very badly moving down the stretch of the season. Jackson Holliday 0 for 2 with 2 walks. Ramon Urias 0 for 4, and Ramon Laureano 1 for 4. So, yeah, the offense didn't do anything. They only scored 2 runs. But at the same time, if I was the offense, I would not want to even try or play baseball because of what was going on in this game on the pitching side. The team went 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. And, basically what I'm saying is if I was the offense, if I was Cedric or Ryan Mountcastle or Adley or Gunnar or Jackson Holliday, seeing what deficit I was in and seeing what the other side of the ball was doing with the pitching, seeing what the pitching was doing in this game, I would not want to try. And there was also some Orioles in the dugout that were kind of just like laughing because this was a complete disaster, and it's just something that you don't see very often. So Again, I'm not going to blame the offense at all here. They did only put up 2 runs on the game. But this in no way, shape, or form is on the offense at all. When you let up 24 runs in a game, it doesn't matter how many runs your offense scores. This game is 155% on the pitching. So let's just get into the pitching, because this was a roller coaster of a day for the Baltimore Orioles pitching. As I was saying yesterday, the Orioles, in their 9-5 win over the Reds, obviously they started Brandon Young, so they kind of had to go to the bullpen a little bit early. They were getting into some traffic with the Reds, so they were getting through it, and they were able to win the game, obviously. But we used 8 pitchers in yesterday's game, so our bullpen was already very taxed because of what happened yesterday. Our bullpen was extremely taxed, and going into the game today, Braden Hyde got up there on the pregame press conference and said, "We need a big day from Charlie Morton because of the obviously the bullpen being taxed so much." He said, "We need a big day from Charlie Morton today," and obviously that was obvious because the bullpen got taxed a lot. You used 8 pitchers. Obviously, in the next day, in the next game, and the next day, you're obviously going to want to see your starting pitcher go out there and at least get you 5 to 6 innings minimum because of the bullpen. And but unfortunately for the Orioles today, when they needed a starting pitcher to go out there and just go a lot of innings to save the bullpen, unfortunately for the Orioles, it was Charlie Morton Day. So obviously Charlie Morton Day means you never know what's going to happen. Well, actually, you do know what's going to happen. You know that it's going to be a rough game, and that your offense better show up and be ready to go. And it was exactly that. Charlie Morton today is now 0-5 on his first 5 starts of the season. He has been credited the loss in every single game he has started for the Orioles this year. And, as I was saying, with Charlie Morton needing to go a lot of innings today because of the pitching and because of the bullpen in, the previous game, Charlie Morton, when he needs to go long today, only gets through 2.1 innings of work, giving up 7 hits, 7 runs, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts, and a home run with a 68 pitch count through 2.1 innings. And his ERA is now ballooned up to a 10.89 ERA. And this is, all I can really do is just laugh at the scenario and the situation, because this guy on this pitching staff right now, on the starting pitching staff, this guy is currently your number 1 pitcher in your rotation. And, I don't really know what you're supposed to do with that. I don't really know how the Orioles are supposed to win games with that, especially with that being the case with him as the number 1 pitcher right now. He's 100% not the best pitcher in the rotation, but in terms of the order, he is the number 1 guy because of the Zach Eflin injury. Obviously, with the Grayson Rodriguez injury being a whole different injury, being separate to the one that he has right now, and that also might be taking him out for the year. Cal Bradish is recovering from Tommy John, so he's not going to be back for a really long time. Maybe, hopefully, sometime in the second half of the year. But the Zach Eflin injury is really the big one, because he was, obviously the Orioles' best starting pitcher this year. He was doing amazing for the Orioles, and he gets hurt. You look at the Orioles' starting pitching staff as a whole right now with Charlie Morton, Dean Kramer, Cade Povich, Tomoyuki Sugano, and a 5th pitcher that you really don't know who it is. It's going to be a new guy every week until we get Zach Eflin back. So, yeah, Charlie Morton with a horrible performance once again. He's done horrible in every single game he's played for the Orioles. And if this was any other baseball team in Major League Baseball, I think he would be cut by tomorrow morning. But because of the Orioles' situation with their pitching, he's not going anywhere. He's not going to go to the bullpen, and he's certainly not going to get cut, because we really seriously do not have anybody else to go as a pitcher. At the end of the day, this guy is a veteran. This guy he knows how the business works. He's a veteran. But he's horrible. He's been horrible for the Orioles, and I hope that he knows that. I hope he knows that he hasn't been very good for us. Obviously 0-5 in his 5 starts, and yeah, he really started the collapse of the Orioles today. It kind of all started with Charlie Morton's start, and just kind of didn't get worse from there, but it did just kind of stay the same from there for the rest of the game for the pitching. But yeah, Charlie Morton, a horrible game. You wish that you could cut him, because obviously if this was any other team, he would have been cut by now. But we just don't have anybody else. If we cut Charlie Morton, there's nobody, unless we go out and sign a pitcher on free agency or call someone up from our AAA, which either one of those scenarios are not, even good options to do, because it's going to lead to a similar result. Charlie Morton has been, he's been horrible. You can't cut him. And the Orioles are in a scenario right now where they can't cut him because of the injuries, and also because they don't have enough talent pitching-wise to be able to cover for him and, just be better than him. Because we didn't go out and trade and sign any sort of pitching in free agency that was going to help this team. Obviously, Tomoyuki Sugano has been doing his thing, and he's been solid, and I'm happy with that. But the other starting pitcher that we signed in Charlie Morton has been absolutely god-awful. And I hope that Mike Elias has kind of seen what's going on, especially with this game, and he kind of really understands that this really does fall on him. We could have avoided any of this. We could have avoided signing Charlie Morton. We could have avoided having such a weak starting pitching staff if we didn't go out there and just sit still and not move and settle for Charlie Morton and Tomoyuki Sugano. No hate to Tomoyuki, but there was a lot better options out there that we could have gone out and signed. And at the end of the day, that's just what I'm gonna say. We just lost 24-2. This team's momentum, little bit of momentum that they had, winning 3 of their last 4 games before this, that's all gone. Every ounce of momentum that this team has is completely gone, has been completely evaporated from the game. And this was the worst loss that the Orioles have had all year. And hopefully, this is the worst loss that they'll have all season. By the end of the season, hopefully this is the worst loss that they'll have. If they have a worse loss than this, then I don't know what could have possibly went wrong or happened in that game. But the Orioles with a horrible game today overall. You look to Mike Elias, you look at the moves that he made, and you look at the moves that he didn't make. You look at the moves that he made to settle for Charlie Morton and Tomoyuki Sugano, and this team could have been in such a different scenario and in such a better just situation pitching-wise. They could have surrounded this offense with talent, and they decided to stay still and do nothing. And it's disappointing, and it's frustrating, because there's games like this where it's just laughably bad. And I hope Mike Elias was looking up in his booth and watching this and really thinking about what he did this offseason, because this team is completely destroyed right now. They're 9-12 on the year. They're 3 games below 500. But when you lose 24-2, they better follow up this game. They have an off day tomorrow, but they have a series against Washington starting on Tuesday. And if they don't go out there and sweep Washington after what just happened to them here, I can just see the fight in this team and how they're going to move forward with the season, because this game right here needs to light a fire under everybody on this team. And hopefully this was a big look in the mirror of who we are as a team, and that whatever we're doing right now, pretty much obviously on the pitching side, is not going to work. And something needs to change. Drew French, something needs to change with him and the way he's talking to these guys and coaching these pitchers. Just something's got like this is ridiculous. And I know that this happens to a lot of teams, and I know that this can happen to teams sometimes where they get blown out or whatever. But this was more than a blowout. This was like a team defining game where you have to figure out what's going on with the team. Brandon Hyde needs to sit these guys down tomorrow during their day off and really figure out what is going on with this team and the pitching, and why figure out what's going on with the pitching and what little things can we change with that. Also, what's going on with the offense? Why can't the offense get going in a consistent way? There's a lot of problems with this team, and it's unfortunate that they're in this scenario. But yeah, what are you going to do about it? At the end of the day, all you can do is sit back and watch your team go. And obviously all I'm going to be doing is just recapping them, talking about it, judging decisions, getting excited for wins, getting upset at losses, and just sharing my opinion on things and just doing overall recaps. But continuing with the rest of the Orioles pitching, Cody Petit, who was the pitcher who the Orioles got in the trade that they did the other day for cash considerations. The Orioles obviously got Cody Petit, I think it was like a couple weeks ago. We got him from the Cubs. He was a former Yankee, and he was very solid with the Yankees last year, and he's been a pretty solid pitcher in his career overall. But today, made his Oriole debut out of the dugout, pitched 2.2 innings, gave up 6 hits, 5 runs, and 2 walks and a strikeout. A 68 pitch count through 2.2 innings. Very, very similar to Charlie Morton's stat line. And then we obviously had to pull Cody Petit. Sino Perez goes out there, 2 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. And then, so those were the 3 pitchers that we used today. And by the time that was over, this game was already over. It was already just completely and utterly over from that moment. And going into the 8th inning, we didn't have any pitchers left. I mean, obviously we had pitchers that we could use, but this game was already completely dead and done. So in the 8th inning, usually you do this in the 9th inning, but in the 8th inning, we had to bring in our position players to pitch. So in the 8th inning, it started off with Jorge Mateo, who it was the 35 pitch count in the 8th inning that it took him 35 pitches to get through the inning. Obviously, I'm not blaming Jorge Mateo. He's a position player. He's not supposed to, be able to pitch well and get out. So I'm not blaming Jorge Mateo or Gary Sanchez for this. But Jorge Mateo, I mean, it's just funny to look at the end of the day. Jorge Mateo, 1 inning pitched, gives up 5 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, 35 pitch count, 45 ERA. And the only time that he's hopefully going to be pitching all year, obviously, because hopefully nothing like this happens again. And then Gary Sanchez got the 9th inning, 1 inning, 2 hits, 4 runs, a walk, and a home run. Jorge Mateo also gave up a home run as well, grand slam. But this team, lots of bad things with this team today. If we go over and look at the Reds stat line real quick, because I mean, this is just crazy to look at, like, their box score. I mean, it literally looks like a video game. Friedel went 1 for 6. Everybody on the team had a hit. Everybody who started today had a hit. And if you go over to, I mean, you would think that Ellie De La Cruz had a monster game, but he had a solo home run. That was all he did. He was 1 for 4 with a solo home run. But the guys who killed the Orioles most today was the 8 and 9 hitters. Marte went 5 for 7 with 7 RBIs and a home run. And then Wins went 6 for 7 with 6 RBIs and a home run. So, yeah, both of those guys completely just got their stats padded, obviously, at the end of the game. It was a mess by the end of the game. And, there isn't really much to say. Obviously, it is a lot of negative, and I apologize for this video and episode being a lot of negative stuff about the Orioles. But when you lose 24-2, there isn't a lot of positives to say about this team. Obviously, I wish that this team would have won today and they would have had back-to-back series wins. Obviously, I would be talking in such more positive light because then, back-to-back series wins, you move forward from there, you get the day off tomorrow, you can go play Washington, and you move forward with there. But, the Orioles are, they not only do they lose the series, but they lose it in a extremely embarrassing and just insane, like absolutely insane fashion. And again, at the end of the day, this has to be a game where you look back on, not even look back on, a game where you have to, the team has to look itself in the mirror and say, okay, this is who we are. Like obviously, hopefully this isn't like who they are, but they need to figure out, they look in the mirror and say, okay, like this is one of those games where they have to come together and figure out what's going on, because I feel like what's going on might be something deeper than just the play on the baseball field. I don't know if it's something in the dugout. I don't know if it's something in the locker room. I don't know if it's something within, the way that people feel about Brandon Hyde. I'm not really sure what's going on with this team, but this is one of those games where you really have to figure out what's going on, because this is this is just unacceptable. This game is trending all over the place for good reason, obviously. I mean, we lost by 22 runs. But it also has to be one of those games where you kind of just have to move on. And that's the thing about baseball is you can lose by 22 runs and then you're still going to have the rest of the season to go. And like, imagine if, thank God we have a day off tomorrow, because imagine if we had to go out there at home and play tomorrow in front of the fans after we just lost by 22 runs. So hopefully that is not the case. We do have a day off tomorrow. We do have to play the Washington Nationals in the next series, which we are actually going to look at real quick right now. On Tuesday we play the Washington Nationals in Washington, so obviously it's not a very far drive. It is still in the DMV area. And in that game we're going to be having Dean Kramer pitch. So once again, the Orioles get a starting pitching matchup where that does not go in their favor. Mitchell Parker for the Nationals has been fantastic this year. 2-1 in his starts, a 1.85 ERA, 1.11 WHIP, 24 innings, 18 hits, 16 strikeouts, 9 walks. So Mitchell Parker has been great this year for the Nationals. Dean Kramer hasn't been too amazing, but he is coming off of his last outing, where his last outing that he had was excellent. He played excellent in his last outing, and hopefully he can just kind of carry that outing over to carry it over to Tuesday. We're gonna need some life. We're gonna need to see some life in the starting pitching. I thought we saw it within Tomoyuki and Dean Kramer, but unfortunately we didn't. Hopefully Dean Kramer can follow up his very great last outing with another great outing on Tuesday. But overall, Dean Kramer's season, he has struggled a little bit. Obviously, 2-2 on the year, a 6.4 ERA. But we're just going to need to see some life. And I'm really, really, really you can't expect a sweep in baseball, but I'm expecting a series win. I really hope that they come out of that 22-run loss and come into this series against the Nationals with, a chip on their shoulder and wanting to kind of get back on track, because they kind of understand now that they really need to get back on track, because going into this series they are 3 games below 500, and they gotta just take this series against the Nationals, and obviously they gotta try and sweep, because the Nationals aren't great as well. They're 9-13, we're 9-12. It is a 3-game series, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, game 1, Dean Kramer, Mitchell Parker. Hopefully the Orioles can go out here and get a win. Also, there wasn't any updates on Grayson's injury or Zach Eflin as well. They're just, again, hopeful that they can come back as soon as possible, which we are going to need. We are going to need as much pitching help as possible to come back from injury, because right now, again, it is a complete disaster, and it doesn't take someone who doesn't know baseball to know that. But before we wrap this episode up, I do want to go through the AL East standings real quick. So today, the Yankees are still first at 14-8. The Blue Jays are second at 12-10. So the Yankees actually have a full 2-game lead on the Blue Jays right now in the division. The Red Sox are third at 12-11. The Orioles are fourth at 9-12, and the Rays are fifth at 9-13. So again, all that we can hope for the Orioles is that they just get back on track and find a rhythm. All sort of rhythm that they had got killed after today, but hopefully, moving forward, things can just get better. That's all you can really hope for with this team. And that's going to be it for today's episode of Birds of a Feather. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. Obviously, today's episode was a little crazy, was a little negative. Obviously, the Orioles lose by 22 runs. So things in the Orioles organization and just as the Orioles team overall have been pretty crazy this year. Not in a good way, but, it is what it is. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Birds of a Feather. If you guys like this content, make sure to sub up on YouTube and follow up on Spotify if y'all like this content. Tomorrow is Monday, and the Orioles do not play tomorrow. They have a day off. But tomorrow, again, is Monday, and it is officially draft week tomorrow. So this upcoming Thursday is the NFL draft, and tomorrow we will be doing our final mock draft Monday before the draft. It's going to be my final mock draft that I put out to the world, put out on the episodes. The final mock draft, it'll be mock draft 4.0, the finale of the Mock Draft Monday series. So we're going to try and get it as close as possible tomorrow. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for Mock Draft Monday. Thank you guys so much again for tuning into this. I really appreciate all the support again. Subscribe and follow if you guys like this content. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for Mock Draft Monday, the finale. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.